From Ekhuruleni Council Chambers, welcome to our first debate. And we are joined here by Ekhuruleni from the Democratic Alliance. We're also joined by Ntabiseng Shivenga from the EFF. We're also joined by Reverend Ekhuruleni from the AIC. The ANC was invited, but they just didn't pitch. Welcome to all three of you, and thank you very much for being part of this conversation.
Thank you, Vio, and thank you to the viewers at home. Good evening.
Well, I'm going to start with you, Ms. Nteche. What for you, what would be your priorities if you get elected mayor of this city?
I think the biggest priority is the fact that Ekhuruleni looks good on paper, but in reality our communities are not experiencing the so-called goodness on paper. That's the first thing. The second thing is to deal with the electricity outages that we're having in this metro, which is about 1,500 outages. In fact, we are here in Ekhuruleni, and Germiston is out of power today. Just down the road as industries which are being impacted on. And the second thing is the water outages. Those are the three key priorities that I'll be dealing in when I come in as a mayor for the
Mr.
metro.
Brown, what would be your priorities if you were elected mayor?
Okay, thank you very much, Vuyo, and good evening to your viewers. I just want to clarify that I am not the mayoral candidate of the EFF. However, I am a representative and current councillor of the EFF in the Ekhuruleni caucus. Vuyo, what is imperative to the EFF will be issues of unemployment, which is largely linked to economic development. The EFF has long spoken about building state capacity and ensuring that there will be sustainable work for people of the city of Ekhuruleni. Those, Vuyo, can be only done by revitalizing the industrial hub that Ekhuruleni has formerly been known as. We have tried as the EFF in our previous term to submit motions of insourcing security guards, insourcing your cleaners, so that at least we have internal state capacity and people that are sustained and have job security. We've also requested the city to try and get these waste pickers to be formalized in some way, because the industry of waste picking is very large and there's so much to be exploited there. The housing issue, very critical. And as much as we are saying there's no land, the land in Ekhuruleni is dolomitic and is prone to geotechnical problems. It's very important as well that we get the housing issue done properly. For many years, the EFF has been advocating for the housing beneficiary list to be made public. The ANC has on many occasions refused to do this. People just get on the list and they don't know what's happening. People have had what they call a Form C for over a decade now, but there's nothing happening there. So that's another critical issue. The third critical issue for us as the EFF is the provision of sustainable basic services, your water, sanitation and energy. The electricity issue is a nightmare for all of us, Vuyo. I mean, we have material losses of electricity and water due to negligence of infrastructure by the municipality. The provision of healthcare is very important. I mean, if we were to prioritize 24-hour clinics like the EFF is putting forward, it will go a large way in ensuring that there's less burden on hospitals. If you look at issues of when do hospitals start being burdened, it's exactly when clinics closed. And people go there for minor ailments such as your headache, your PMTCT, your antenatal care, and so on. Those can be relieved by having 24-hour clinics. There are many more issues, Vuyo, that are still outstanding. I'm also skeptical about what the Auditor General report says about the city and what we on the ground see.
Okay, we'll get into the detail of those in a while. Ekhuruleni, what should be the priorities in this municipality from where your party sits?
Yeah, first of all, let me thank you for the platform, because a not-speaking nation is a demised nation. So for this platform, we truly appreciate, especially as smaller parties. That shows that the media is not censored where I'm sitting. The priorities of the African Independent Congress would be housing. The issue of housing is dehumanizing. If you see the number of squatter camps that are engulfing the metro, it's pathetic. You're talking of the children, you're talking of the old-aged people, you're talking of all levels of the people that are displaced. Technically, people are foreigners in their own land, and it is an injustice. It is a travesty, because God gave us the land, and we are supposed to be living in the land in a manner that befits humanity. But as the thing stands now, it's pathetic when you see people who are living in squalor areas that are below poverty. You can't explain that. When I did, in fact, I'm still doing the outreach, feeding the people during COVID. My church would do that, would go in these places feeding people. I have seen poverty. Poverty has a name. It is in squatter camps. Unless we address the issue of the livelihood of our people, where our people are staying in decent places, that would be the priority for us. And then the second priority would be the youth employment. Remember, youth is the capital, it's a seed capital of any society. So any society that seeks to delegitimize youth, that society will be extinct in the long run, because you need a human capital that has been invested to in terms of the skills, in terms of the knowledge economy, in terms of that these youth must be empowered to be able to respond to the needs of the economy. Let me tell you a paradox. To say there is no jobs, that statement is a fallacy. I can tell you now there are jobs. It's just that our education system does not speak to what the economy offers. As a result, we will have to source out skills from outside, especially in our neighboring countries, especially overseas. Yet our economy is so sophisticated, so we need to align the education to speak to the needs of the economy. If we address that, we would arrest the issue of job creation. So youth employment is going to be our priority, and then we will strive for anti-corruption, because corruption is looting, corruption is satanic, corruption is apartheid, corruption is a crime against humanity. So whoever is an agent of corruption, he must understand that he is not different to P.W. Botha. He's not different to Pete Korenhoff of apartheid. He's not different to Jan van Riebeeck. That person who partakes in the corruption tendency actually impedes the public purse to deliver the sufficient mandate to the needy society. So we must, as a society, speak against corruption, and we must, as a society, name and shame people that are partaking in corruption. We must make our people aware that they must not be the accomplices of corruption, because corruption is looting. Corruption is actually evil. So we will strive for an anti-corruption governance. And then another priority for us would be health. Post-COVID, we can't deny, COVID has been a pandemic, and we have lost so many people. We tender our condolences to the family who were victims of this phenomenon, which is unknown. We pray to God Almighty that let there be light at the end of the day, that our people gain their freedom, that they are able to go to churches freely, they are able to go to shopping centers freely, they are able to go to work freely. So if we do not address the issue of health, then our investment, all of what we say, is in vain, because health becomes a priority. How are we going to address the issue of health is by decentralization of health facilities. What would make you not to have mobile clinics? I don't know. Because you've got to have health clinics in the informal settlement. You've got to have health agents that are doing the daily assessment of the health of the people. You've got to have health people that are outside there that are testing people across the length and the breadth of our country, because prevention is better than cure. So we find the mortality rate to be skyrocketing, simply because we are negligent when we come to the issues of health. So we would make sure that health is a priority. The last part would be education. When we speak decolonization of education, what do we mean? We mean that the education must be people-centered. What do we mean when we say people-centered? We mean that the education must be able to address the bread and butter issues of the society, not astronomy, because the current education is astronomical. What do you want from the moon when you cannot fix your issues on earth? So we need an education that would provide skills, an education that would provide, that will be relevant, that will be productive for the current society.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, we did invite the ANC. They didn't pitch. We don't know what actually happened, because we were given a name, which was the name of the incumbent mayor. But I'm sure we'll find out what actually happened there. But let's start with the issue of corruption. This municipality got a clean audit. Are you giving the ANC credit for that at least?
No, because I think in my opening remarks I was quite clear that clean audit does not reflect what people's experiences are on the ground. I just indicated to you that you can have a clean audit, but here we're sitting here in Germiston, where right within Germiston in Wadeville, our industries are out now with electricity as we speak because there's a power outage. That doesn't talk to a clean audit. So I think there's certain measures that the Auditor General looks at that are not lived experiences of industry. And I want to say as well, education is not a local government competency. We need to focus on local government competencies because that's a provincial and national competency. Okay. When I come in as a mayor, one of the things I'm going to be looking at is, when you talk about a clean audit, are you really delivering services for the people? Are people who pay taxes getting the value for their money? And when you ask people to pay for rates and taxes, I mean, right now you've got Ekhuruleni, which is dealing with a valuation issue. That's not reflected in a clean audit of a municipality. You're dealing with people having water outages. That doesn't reflect in a clean audit. As we sit here in Germiston, Primrose had a reservoir that was meant to be renovated, and we've got industry sitting here without water. That budget was actually repurposed to something else, and we had people sitting without water for over 15 days in this metro. That does not get reflected in the clean audit.
Okay. Are you not prepared to at least give the ANC credit?
I shall not, Vuyo. If you enter, you just decide on a normal day to go and visit the mayor at his office, there is nowhere that you are not going to pass an informal settlement. There is nowhere that you won't see sewer spillage on the streets. There is nowhere that you won't see waste on the street. And we must definitely put a disclaimer, Vuyo, that a clean audit does not mean that there's no mismanagement of funds. It doesn't mean that the financial position of the municipality is in a good state. It does not mean there's no corruption. I mean, it's basically misstatement of numbers, changing here and there, putting the money, taking it from here to there. And truly the state of Ekhuruleni is not reflective of an unqualified audit or clean audit, as they put it. We are currently struggling, Vuyo. We are currently struggling to meet our obligations. The last time I checked, we were over 13 days. And the required number of days to have funds is 30 days. So it's just there perhaps to allow us as the municipality, for the rating agencies maybe, to give us the required number of points for us to score loans and have more debt for the municipality. But this clean audit is definitely not a reflection of what is happening on the ground, and there is poor service delivery currently. Service delivery is at an all-time low in Ekhuruleni. Everyone knows about that. Informal settlements, the mayor might deny that Ekhuruleni has the largest number of informal settlements. I mean, for the contradiction of having an erythropolis and the highest number of informal settlements in the same city, it's just shocking. So I want to disagree with the clean audit being a reflection of what's happening, or the Metro doing well.
Policy, you're part of the governing coalition, so you should at least take credit in part for the clean audit that this municipality received.
Yes, thank you very much. I think it's proper when the credit is due, the credit is due. I mean, the question of clean audit is one of the credits that is required in terms of the financial standard and economic standard. Your investors, look, who are operating in a capitalistic society. So when you want to secure your loans, when you want to do the business ventures and what have you, to push and advance the Metro's economy, then you need a clean audit. So I think I head off the powers that be for the clean audit. I mean, clean audit is what we yearn for, but truly it's not an alpha and omega kind of a thing. It's one step in a million, because the clean audit must really transcend into the service delivery of our people. What is the point of a clean budget when you've got poverty, when you've got our people that are living beyond the poverty line? What is the point? It's necessary, really cosmetic. However, I must hasten to say we really appreciate that we got a clean audit out of all municipalities. At least it's a right thing to do in the right direction. And also, I must also say it's very necessary for the municipality to up their games in terms of financial administration, because financial administration is the face of your economy. If you are handling your finances negligent, which investor would consider you? You are but a joke. We are but a joke. So we have to up our game in terms of attaining the clean audit. And I think we must give the credit where it's due. I mean, Ekhuruleni municipality has tried against all odds. You know, there are challenges. There was COVID, the employment, the investors, and there was a global challenge of pandemic. I mean, for us to get the clean audit, I think it is fair to say we really congratulate the Metro for that. It means that the public purse is heading for the right direction.
Okay.
Yes.
If you just joined us, we're talking about the city of Ekhuruleni, and we have the DA, the EFF, and the AIC participating in tonight's discussion. The ANC was invited, but they simply didn't pitch. This conversation continues right after this. Welcome back, and if you just joined us, we're in conversation with Refilwe from the Democratic Alliance. We also have Ntabiseng Chibenga from the EFF. We also have Mxolisi Kum from the AIC. The ANC was a no-show. I want us to talk now a bit about delivery of services. From where you sit, Refilwe, what has been the challenge? Where is the problem? Everyone is complaining about, service delivery failures in this municipality. Have you been able to put a finger on it as to where the problem actually is?
In a summary, it's lack of political will. And I want to wrap it around talking about the Auditor General and the finances of the state. I want to use a typical example. Yesterday, I visited a landfill site next to Heidelberg, where you literally found 27 million rand that was spent on these things called karekis, which were meant to actually assist what Ntabiseng is talking about in terms of people who recycle stuff and collect from the dustbins and then take those to the recycling bin. For over 2 years, these things were bought they've got grass growing through them, and nobody's physically using them. And yet money's being wasted. That's fruitless and wasteful expenditure, while they've got a clean audit. So service delivery is about making sure you've got a political will. It means to me there's no performance contract for the executive of this municipality, so nobody's held to account. And when you look at even power outages, while Eskom is at fault for the bulk of service delivery, NERSA says to us, within the Department of Electricity, we should be having 1,500 staff members. We're sitting on 875. That is not a reliable way of managing staff. And if you are serious, these are funded positions. If you're serious around running a municipality, you would ensure that those positions are filled. If you cannot find them within the skill set, go to universities, look at the old engineers that have left, try and get them back and help assist, as well as companies, to have private and public partnership to rebuild that infrastructure. The infrastructure backlog for these municipalities is years and years behind. When you go further and you look at things like waste, you need to interrogate. There's so much tender irregularities. The waste department, you and I have a car. If your car is due for service, you know that after 15,000 kilometers, you'll take it in for service. The municipality also knows how long the trucks need to be serviced. But they sit, and the day that you're due for the waste to be removed, it doesn't get removed. Townships is even worse, where they don't pitch sometimes for over a month, and then you wonder where there's illegal dumping, because you expect people to live with indignity of filth. So people will just throw in the corner, and then you've got that compounds to the Metro Police then having to deal with issuing of illegal dumping. But the multifaceted mess of poor service delivery ends up making residents who would have been law-abiding citizens become people who are lawbreakers, because service delivery has actually failed them. So we need to start saying, if we want to get service delivery done in this metro, we need to go back to basics. Another incident where I was shocked is when a block in an area was out of power. When we finally found out what was wrong, was because there were no fuses in stock. So the stock management of this metro is not working. Because if you know in your own house, when you buy groceries, you don't wait until the meal is completely finished. When you've got a week's worth left, you go and replenish your stock. So why are there no fuses? And that can, I mean, I've talked about the funded positions that are not being filled. Then you look at the stock levels in the municipality, using fuses as an example. If you use 10 this month, then next week make sure you've got 15, so that if you need 10 as your trend, then you always have the supply of the necessary fuses. And that can be a formula used across the board to every service delivery entity, including drug outages in our clinics. Imagine somebody who goes for ARVs. You only get a regimen of 15 days when you need a full month supply. You have to keep taking days off work. Your bosses are not going to tolerate that, because you become an unreliable employee. So it compounds to other social areas like unemployment. And we know South Africa has now been ranked as the worst unemployment rate in the world. Ekhuruleni should be doing its bit to make sure that investors are interested, because we've got basic service delivery being delivered to our people across all the departments of this metro. And we are failing to do those very basic things, which are common sense, but somehow common sense is not prevailing with the leadership of this metro. So I want to come in and start going back to basics to ensure that if you need to buy bitumen for road, if you need, another incident, 250 million was from a grant was returned to Treasury because it was not built for housing. Ntabisen told you that our people are living in squalor. When I was a councillor here, Mondli Gungu Bebe was the mayor of Ekhuruleni. He said he would eradicate informal settlements in his term. It's 2021. I'm taking 10 years later. We've now got over 125 informal settlements from the 117 that we had in 2011 when I was a councillor. Basic services, it's just political will and implementing and getting the basics right for this metro.
Ntabiseng, how would you unlock the service delivery challenges of this municipality?
We first need to acknowledge that that empty chair, it's an exact reflection of the empty promises that the ANC have always put on the table for our people. There is no political will in this municipality, Vuyo. Political will is paramount to any other thing that follows, because it speaks to the economics, it speaks to the budget. Currently, with the setup that is with ANC and their friends, the coalition partners, the coalition partners are just there to be seen. There isn't much impact that they are bringing to the table. I mean, they are speaking of corruption when they are part of the corruption. So those are the issues that you need to understand, that people don't really know what they are doing or what space are they in. It's a challenge, Vuyo, that our budget is not prioritized towards service delivery. And that is one thing that is critical to the EFF. The EFF is a vanguard of the people, Vuyo. We are on the ground every day. We see these things every day. The unfortunate thing is the empty promises. We have access to the HODs. We call them every day. We speak to them every day. But nothing ever happens. You can have a best sewer line that ends up rigging the entire road. You know, sewer is very dangerous in any community, especially in congested informal settlements where there are children playing around. And if you allow that thing to happen for so many days that the road ends up getting potholes, it shows where your priorities are. The municipality has a security budget of over 100 million per annum. Vuyo, we have people guarding empty spaces while there are sewers flowing in the streets, while there are electricity cuts, while our hostels in Tembisa, your Ntlazeni, your Stohwa, they are not maintained. Our people there are living in squalor. They are living in unhygienic situations. So the focus of the budget and the political will ensure that these municipalities run properly and the people of the city get what is due to them. And that is what we need to prioritize, Vuyo, more than all these frivolous things. The mayor has such a dream about building a zoo, having a Grand Prix. He also spoke of Disneyland. Those things are for elites, Vuyo. They are not for us. They won't impact anything on our majority of our people. You can find a situation where you need to choose between buying a loaf of bread and going to Disneyland. I mean, you are definitely not going to Disneyland, nor do you have the budget to do such things.
But you don't think such projects bring about jobs?
Well, they do bring about jobs, but there is a big white elephant in the room of a city that is formerly known as an industrial hub, yet Isando is dormant, Transwat is dormant, Wadeville is dormant. The industries there are sitting. A couple of years ago, we had some public stunt project that they had called revitalization of black industrialists. We don't see those people anymore. The factories are there, they are still lying dead. There is so much that we can do with those industries for you. They can provide far large number of jobs than what is currently being on the ground and what those Disneyland can do. The textile industry in Ekhuruleni was once at its peak, yet we could not even produce a mask at the beginning and at the height of COVID. So that is saying a lot about us, that our priorities are elsewhere. Perhaps we need to go back to basics and find out that what is it that we really need to do and get the right people to actually do the job. Thanks.
Mxolisi, as coalition partners, do you ever get to have these conversations about how to, unlock the city's potential? Do you ever have conversations about, yes, it's great to have clean books, but at the end of the day, people on the ground must be the ones actually feeling the difference? Do you ever have such conversations as coalition partners?
Yes, we do have such conversations as coalition partners. That's why, by all honesty, we have seen the development and the relaunch of the township economies. You would remember in the olden days you will have to bus people into Germiston CBD there was no ShopRite, there was no, I'm sorry to mention names, but now you do get the township economies where our own people are able to source out food within their proximity of precinct. So the question of service delivery, I think we should look it holistically. Holistically, in the context that service delivery is a legacy issue. You must understand that the government that was couched or structured in a manner to service a minority few. And then there was an issue of industrialization where people migrated from the rural areas to the towns. That was advanced by the discovery of gems, historically speaking. That kind of sociological phenomenon impacts very much into the service delivery. And then today you've got a problem where there is a disjuncture between the officials and the communities. I think that's where the bottlenecks is, because service delivery protests were born out of the disjuncture that existed between the politicians or officials and the communities, and the communities were left in limbo or in the island, for the lack of the better word, where there is no attention to their bread and butter issues. So hence we as the African Independent Congress existed because of that phenomenon, because the powers that be, once they get the seat and they leave the empty seats, they leave the seats empty whilst they were given by the people. And then the communities then would rally against the powers that be. Hence, we will have the service delivery protests. Let me come to this one. What would be the solution of the service delivery? The solution number one would be inspection. We are very poor in inspection. So whenever and wherever something happens infrastructurally, we would see it at a point of its eruption or blockage, so to speak. And then the issue of maximum revenue collection, because we are a capitalistic society, there is no free lunch here. So our society now has to be navigated from free society to capitalistic society. People should pay electricity. We've got places where people are using electricity without money. Yes, of course, there is what we could as a reprieve that we allow for people. We call it, I just forget the term, so that people can access those people who do not have the means, you see. The last part is that we need to decentralize. You know, decentralization is very powerful. Unless we decentralize services, we won't make it. Because once you centralize any service, you are creating inadvertently a bottleneck of a backlog. That's the term the politicians like to use, backlog. It's because of the centralization of services. When you decentralize services, services are within the precinct of the dwelling of the communities, then you've got halfway through into the problem.
Well, pity the ANC is not here to defend its record. But in terms of, are you at least prepared to concede that there is a legacy issue, as Mxolisi Komo was saying?
I don't know how long then will the legacy last. I mean, we have a classical case of Rwanda, where at the dawn of our democracy, Rwanda was getting straight into genocide. Look at Rwanda today, look at South Africa today. If we had to face reality, Vuyo, that we are currently lost. We have no idea what we are doing. I hear this ANC government mainly speaks of a developmental state and this and that, and you cannot speak of a developmental state when you have a lot of capitalist issues here and there. Your education system is based on a capitalist city where you benchmark. If they had to prioritize and have an ideology and a clear vision for the majority of the people of this country, and they allow that whatever happened in industry, in education, in all sectors, to be a reflection of who we are, then I think we should not then be worried about those things, because we are now doing one thing while the system is another thing. So that's why there's no impact. Historically, there are challenges, and we do acknowledge and appreciate our fallen heroes who have done their work for us to get to where we are today as a country. But we cannot continue, Vuyo, to allow mismanagement of funds, to allow corruption, to allow people that are not qualified to get into jobs, and to allow people that cannot be accountable. How do you, as a hosting mayor, not make it to your own party? I mean, that's an injustice. So those are the issues that we have, Vuyo, in this country, and the historical part is a minor part of it, and we should have been somewhere. And I believe that as the EFF, if we had to run an EFF municipality, things will be much different than what they are currently.
Refilwe, legacy of the past?
Look, you know where I concede is that we have limited budgets. However, I want to give you instances of work that I've done around this metro. This week alone, I visited Duduza Taxi Rank. There's a Public Participation Act. You speak to taxi drivers and taxi owners. They've gone and built a taxi rank where people don't want to go. It's not in the main, the straight line, as we call it, the routes where there's traffic for passengers. There's money wasted again. And when you talk about decentralizing, there is opportunities for decentralization, but the municipality is not taking advantage of these. I want to use an example. If you look at the ambulance and the licensing, actually, all of this were taken from the municipality and taken to a provincial and national sphere. As an example, I had to wait from October last year until only last week I got my license. I couldn't find a slot. The first slot I was given is in Carltonville. I live in Ekhuruleni. I refused the Carltonville slot. It's 100 kilometers, and I thought, what about an ordinary citizen of South? It's not a proper way of thinking. So when you speak to the people of Duduza around the taxi rank as an example, and they say to you, nobody consulted us in where we want a taxi rank to be. There's plenty open spaces near the main line, and that taxi rank could have been built there. Maybe negotiate with the owner, buy that land and build the taxi rank there, because if you move us inside where we don't want this taxi rank to be, tomorrow that line where it's Duduza Taxi Association will be taken by Tsagani, because they will pass through the straight line where the passengers are waiting. The ambulance services, after it got provincialized, the response rate for our people here in Ekhuruleni was longer. That is life being put at risk. And yet the metro was offered an opportunity to take back their license, and they did not take advantage of that. And if you want to decentralize, those are the things you should be considering, to say, if I'm going to be running an ambulance service, bring the ambulance services back to Ekhuruleni, bring the licensing of your driver's licenses back to our traffic departments, which exist in this metro, so that the people of Ekhuruleni are not told to go to Carltonville or Hammanskraal to look for their licenses. When they book slots, let the slots be here. And also, we cannot say that we only want online booking for licenses. What about the gogo in Tembisa who just has her car? You want that gogo to be able to go to the traffic department, get a slot, and do her license same time. It is such an unfriendly system that is being run by the current government. Everything is being centralized to province and to national spheres, to the detriment of the residents of this municipality. When I take over, I plan to decentralize those kind of systems so that the people of Ekhuruleni can get services where they are. And that's the way to run, because with the budgets, it will make far more sense. And this thing of having budgets that then get returned to Treasury because cadres are fighting over the tenders for housing. I mean, 250 for housing, going back 250 million, going back to Treasury as a grant. That's an unforgivable offense. You should be building houses, especially when you have promised that you're going to eradicate informal settlements. Some people want houses, some people want service stands. Look at those who can afford to get service stands and ensure that with the service stands, when they get their own jobs, they build their own houses based on their needs. FLISP is dysfunctional. You also have an issue where we've also called for a very long time to say at the provincial level, because The municipality is not yet accredited to do housing. It's still sitting as a provincial competency. Let these lists be transparent. So if you apply today in 2021 and you see the people in front of you, let's say I'm number 15 on the list, when number 1 to 14 get their houses, then I know that the next house that's available, I'm going to be the one who gets that house. Or my service tent, if I so choose to build my own house, because I'm not quite an RDP person and I'm not quite a FLISP person. When you also talk about the issue of ensuring that some of these things that the metro is doing, we need to beef up competencies. In order to get investors, the businesses like here in Wadeville where you've got industry, why would you want to build a business where there's no electricity, where there's no power, where the storage is not going correct, where the roads are riddled with potholes? These are the people that will come in and employ the people of Ekhuruleni. And also when they keep talking about industrial hubs, there's no industrial hubs. I went to the airport. On the other side in Bonora Park, there was an Ekhuruleni and a provincial project that was supposed to be a jewelry manufacturing sector precinct. Today they are using it as a food processing precinct. India uses jewelry as a big industry which is helping to eradicate unemployment. South Africa is failing our youth here.
How do you propose, because you said it's not that jobs are scarce, there's a skills mismatch. How would you address that if you were to be in charge of this metro? Police?
I would one address that through education setup. Look, I understand the fact that in terms of the protocols of governance, education is a priority is a national priority.
But yeah, it's a national competence.
Yes, it's a national competence.
How do you approach it as the metro?
Yes.
How would you deal with the issue of unemployment here?
Yes. One, you would have to align the curriculum. For an example, this...
But it's not a metro competence.
It's not a metro competence. Yes, I get that.
So I'm talking about, we should be talking about things that are within your means.
Yes, within our means. One, we will have to revitalize the economy. Look, for example, this place was a mining belt, for the lack of the better word. And then you'll find that hence we've got a high number of informal settlements. And the question becomes then, how are you revitalizing that part of economy, the gems, where you take away the fact that our minerals are mined here and then they are polished elsewhere. So what we must do, we must change the narrative where everything that is of South Africa as the gems or commodity must be fashioned here. And we must skill our people to be able to fashion it here. And then when it goes out as a product to be given to the world. Because remember, the globe, regrettable, they live out of our ignorance, yet we are the richest. It's a manner how are we restructuring our issues, so that our issues are home groomed, so to speak. So that's the first point. The first point, yes. So we will definitely have to look at that. How do we make our people able to exploit the opportunities that are there, and how are we revitalizing such opportunities? Yes.
And I was saying, how would you uniquely position the metro such that you grow the local economy, but at the same time you are addressing the unemployment situation?
Yeah, Vuyo, the issue of skill mismatch and the industry is very critical. We have many TVET colleges, and we can, as the city that will be run under the EFF, have artisanry schools. Those artisanry schools, they teach skill-based education that will allow then the students that graduate from those colleges to get into industry. We will match whatever industrial products that are produced with the students that we are going to be assisting in artisanry projects. We are living in a time of the fourth industrial revolution, as they put it. And the greatest challenge is exactly that. We have a bursary system as the city. However, we don't know where these kids are going. That is the other challenge. We are not addressing our local challenges, because the aim of us having a bursary system should not be just to get graduates out. It should be to get graduates that will be locally based, and that will in turn give back to the city. We have lots of farms in the Nigel belt, Vuyo. We have lots of mines, but we don't have such type of training and skill sets around the city, and we are not capitalizing on that. I believe that as the EFF, those are the main issues that we would need to deal on. The revolution of agriculture, Vuyo, is something that it's not exploited. And that industry is capable of changing the economy. I mean, we have issue of ZZ2 from Limpopo, being the largest producer of tomatoes. Those tomatoes, they go from Limpopo, they pass here, and they go elsewhere. There's that gap that we can do. We have those farms, but we don't have your fresh produce markets. Those fresh produce market can come in ensuring that there are more people that are employed, and there are more people that are earning and having sustainable jobs. So there are many issues that we can be used to deal with issues of unemployment, Vuyo, as well as making sure that we build state capacity. We don't need a service provider, Vuyo, to come and change the globe for us. We don't need a service provider to do your basic services for us. So if we can employ people with the basic education and maybe up their skill set in the municipality, then we can capitalize on that. Yeah.
Ekhuruleni, what is your offering? Rebuilding the economy while also creating jobs, especially for young people.
I think the first thing is to get the basic services right. The electricity, the water, the roads, the storage. We've probably never done stormwater drainage management. Those all come together, and from there you attract investors. But I also want to say, if you're building an economy, not only for the youth, but all the residents of Ekhuruleni, there's a lot of land that is unaudited that belongs to the city, that the city doesn't even know it has. Start looking at an audit of the land. We have, as the Democratic Alliance, I have an urban agricultural strategy which I'm actually launching tomorrow in terms of how you build urban farming, whether it's in a suburb environment or in small farms and then commercial farms. Then I talked about the jewelry industry, which is laying fallow, if for lack of a better word. Artisan training is critical. If you look in Kempton Park, there's an artisan training college. You need to mirror that and start saying, let's look at artisan training. We need plumbers, we need builders, we need welders, we need carpenters, and put those into the industry so that we can ensure that those skills, which are much needed in the economy, and there's a shortage of them, we put them into the system by creating. In fact, the DA has always been calling that TVET colleges should become artisan training colleges, because that's where the skill shortages are, but that's a national competency.
You and the EFF are together on that one.
Just on the artisan training, and especially converting TVET colleges to cater for artisan training, because we know that's where the skill shortages are, making sure that you merge supply and demand to each other. Then the other thing, we're not capitalizing on the fact that we've got libraries in this metro. Our Wi-Fis are never working. If you want to look at your fourth industrial revolution, all public buildings should be free Wi-Fi areas. A youth can come with a smartphone. We know that so many people have access to smartphones. These days, I've got a friend who's an auditor. She works in South Africa, but is working for a UK-based company because she's got access to Wi-Fi. These are opportunities which can reduce unemployment in this metro. So imagine going to a library and just sitting there the whole day and being at work because you've got access to Wi-Fi. And then public transport. People don't look at how important it is to have public transport that works. We've got Harambe, we've got Brakpan Bus Company. Money has been embezzled in those programs. If you get proper public transport, you link people to economic opportunities, but also you're linking people to places where they can get their supply of goods and revitalize the township economy. In short.
Okay, you each have a minute to tell us why anyone should vote for your party. Your minute starts now, Mr. Kum.
Vote for African Independent Congress because we are a people's party. We deal with the bread and butter issues of the people. We are not into the line of sophisticated politics of ideology. No, what we want is jobs, is education, is health, is security for the people of South Africa. What we want is a crime-free society. What we want is the economy that benefits its own people, not the other way around, where the economy becomes a slave of a master who is sitting somewhere. So vote for African Independent Congress. Do the right thing. We are your voice. Thank you.
You have a minute.
Thank you very much. We will urge and request our voters to vote for the EFF because the municipality of the EFF shall be a municipality that will prioritize industries to ensure that there's employment and the economy is revitalized. It will be a municipality that provides 24-hour clinics for all citizens. We shall in-source all security guards, cleaners and EPWP workers. We shall make sure that there are safe environments for waste pickers to work in, making sure that they are formalized. We shall advocate for safe spaces for women and children because currently we are really struggling with the GBV issue. Yeah, those are the main issues, but as well, we want to change the landscape of the local government, whereby you have a ward that is in the suburb being different from a ward that's in the township. So we want to formalize that and ensure that everyone lives equally. Thank you very much, and vote for the EFF.
Thank you, Vio. First of all, I think we as a DA, we know that where we govern, things are different. Of the top 20 municipalities that are best run in the country, we've proven that we've got about 15 of those ran by the Democratic Alliance. So when the DA governs, we get things done. And most importantly, if you look at unemployment rate in municipalities where we govern, generally we sit with the lowest unemployment rate of any other city. We can show, we've got Midvaal, which is down the road from Ekhuruleni, in fact bordering Ekhuruleni, where we can show that it was actually named the best municipality in Gauteng. I want people to say Ekhuruleni the best run municipality. I want to give Midvaal a run for its money as a DA government challenging another DA government. And I think for me, I've been asked to be a mayoral candidate in 2011. I'm now here 10 years later and standing somebody who's experienced what a council looks like, somebody who's got a lot of government knowledge from running and doing some training in the Democratic Alliance as well in terms of governments. This is the party that will actually get this municipality going, get our basic services sorted out and get the economy stimulated so that we can reduce the unemployment rate. Okay. And we've got OR Tambo Airport, which is a big opportunity. Vote Democratic Alliance, we get things done.
Thank you to Ekhuruleni Ntabiseng Chiwenga and Mkolisi Kum. The ANC, of course, was invited, but they just didn't beat. And that's our first debate. Do join us again next Monday when we're talking about eThekwini. Have a good night.